All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a huge question, one that's probably crossed your mind a time or two. Where in the world does your paycheck actually go the furthest? We're about to go on a global hunt to find out which countries give you the most bang for your buck. Let's jump right in. So, we're always told, right? Chase that bigger paycheck, climb the ladder, get the highest salary you can. But is that really the whole story? I mean, does a fatter paycheck automatically mean a better life? Well, as we're about to see in this explainer, the data, it might just flip that whole idea on its head, especially when you factor in the cost of, having a roof over your head. Okay, so let's start with the most obvious place, the number everyone looks at first. Who's paying the most? And wow, just look at these numbers. They're pretty staggering. Topping our list, Luxembourg, with an average annual salary just shy of $90,000. Iceland and Switzerland are right on its heels. I mean, these are absolute powerhouse economies. And if we stopped right here, if we only looked at salary, you'd think, okay, case closed. These are the winners. But to really get some perspective, let's look at the other end of the scale in our comparison. Over in Indonesia, the average annual income is just about $4,800. It's a really stark contrast, and it just shows you the huge economic differences across the globe. Now, keep this number tucked away in the back of your mind, because it's going to be important later. A big salary is great. We all want one. But what about the cost of, well, putting a roof over your head? This right here is where our story takes a turn and gets really, really interesting. And this is where our high salary heroes start to run into some trouble. Now, to figure this out, we need to talk about a key metric, the price to income ratio, or P to I ratio. It sounds complicated, but it's actually super simple. It's just the number of years of your entire average salary it would take to buy an average home. So the lower that number is, the more affordable housing is. It's a really powerful reality check. Okay, so let's circle back to one of our champions from earlier, Switzerland. We saw they've got the third highest average salary in our whole comparison. So you'd think with that kind of cash flow, buying a home there would be pretty doable, right? Well, think again. Despite that enormous paycheck, Switzerland ranks dead last. I mean, literally at the bottom of the 16 countries in this analysis when it comes to housing affordability. This is our first major plot twist, and it shows how a massive salary can get completely swallowed up by an even more massive cost of housing. And just look at the data here. The United States actually tops the affordability list. It takes about 6.5 years of an average salary to buy a home. The Netherlands and Belgium, they also do really well. And then you scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there's Switzerland at 12.4 years. That means it takes almost twice as long for the average person there to buy a home as it does in the US, even with those giant paychecks. Okay, so we've got salary, we've got housing. But what about everything else? Food, getting around, keeping the lights on. Let's add that final piece to our puzzle. What can your money actually buy day to day? The source material for this explainer puts it perfectly with this quote. The idea is that a low cost of living, it doesn't automatically mean things are great if your income is also proportionally way, way lower. It's all about that balance, right? The relationship between what you earn and what things cost. And Indonesia is the perfect case study for this very thing. It has one of the lowest costs of living in our entire comparison, but, and this is the key, because the average income is also so much lower, the actual purchasing power, what people can really buy, is also right there at the bottom. It's a classic economic trap. So who gets that balance right? Well, look who's back. Luxembourg is number one again, which means its huge salaries more than cover its high costs. But check out the others on this list. Austria, Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands. These are the countries that offer a really fantastic blend of strong salaries and a cost of living that doesn't just empty your wallet every month. All right, we've looked at salary, we've looked at housing, and we've looked at purchasing power. Now it's time to put all three together for the big reveal. We've seen countries be rock stars in one category, only to kind of fall flat in another. So when we put it all in the blender, when we weigh all three factors equally, salary, housing, and purchasing power, who really comes out on top? Who wins as the most economically advantageous place to live? And here we go. Luxembourg takes the number one spot. The USA comes in at a really strong second, followed by Belgium, with Iceland and the Netherlands rounding out that top 5. You can see right here how the different strengths and weaknesses of each country all feed into their final rank.
And just for context, you can see Indonesia, which struggled in all three categories compared to these other nations, finishes at number 16. So how on earth did Luxembourg pull this off? Well, it was just pure dominance. It ranked number 1 for salary and number 1 for purchasing power. That incredible 1-2 punch was more than enough to make up for its just kind of average score on housing costs. But the USA and Belgium show us there's a different way to get to the top. They have a much more balanced profile. The US nails that number 1 spot for housing affordability and combines it with a high salary. Meanwhile, Belgium just scores consistently well across the board. It really proves you don't have to be number 1 in everything to be a major contender. So what this all really boils down to is that every country represents a different set of trade-offs. There's no single perfect place. It's all a big balancing act, and it's about what you personally value most. And there is no better example of this than what we're calling the Swiss paradox. Just think about it. Step 1, you start with the world's 3rd highest salary. Amazing, right? Step 2, you add in the absolute worst housing affordability on our list. So what's the result? That incredible income gets dragged way, way down, landing Switzerland at a kind of shocking 12th place overall. It's just a masterclass in economic trade-offs. So, what are the big takeaways you should get from this explainer? Well, first, and this is the big one, a high salary isn't everything. Second, that cost of housing, it's a hugely critical factor that can make or break your financial life. And finally, true financial strength is all about the balance between what you earn and what you spend. Every country offers its own unique version of that trade-off. And all of that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. After seeing all this data, what's your perfect balance? Would you chase the biggest paycheck possible, like in Switzerland, even if it means housing is a constant struggle? Or would you prefer that more balanced approach, like you see in the US or Belgium, for maybe a more comfortable life? Because the best country, it really all depends on your answer to that question.